Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for this episode of the podcast. My guest this week is somebody whose name you probably heard a few weeks ago because he was Christina Springer's Etsy shop shoutout. My guest this week is Robert, and he runs the Etsy shop Art of Robert Trujillo. Robert, thank you so much. To me, it's kind of surreal that an Etsy shop shoutout person is now my guest. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really awesome to be on.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to have you on. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do on Etsy?
Yeah, so I am an illustrator. I work primarily in the visual arts medium. I have worked in children's books, so I've done a lot of picture books, middle grade books, and I sell some children's books on my site. And I do a lot of stuff around literacy, so you'll see a lot of things about reading and encouraging kids to read, whether it be through bookmarks or book plates. And I love ethnic studies. I grew up as a student of ethnic studies, both in high school and in college. And so that's something I talk a lot about. I'm a big lover of music. And so I would make a lot of music related art. And what else? I love doing custom portraits for parents and caregivers and things like that.
Nice. And I know you have a special connection to books and literacy based on your experience growing up.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So I as a kid was not a really big avid reader. And when I became a father at a young age, I was 24 when I had my first child. He really inspired me to want to kind of remedy one of the reasons why I wasn't interested in reading. You hear it a lot in the kidlit community that people haven't seen a lot of books coming up that were reflections of themselves. And I was one of those kids. So when I was a father and I still did not see very many books reflecting myself or my son, I just took it upon myself to try and enter that field, learn some of the ins and outs, not only about illustrating, but writing as well, and to basically try to make some stories.
And you have, I know, at least one kid's book that you've written, right?
Yeah, so the one most people know me for is For Khan's First Flat Top. It's a bilingual father and son story, and it's about getting a flat top. It's about a father and son going to the barbershop. And I have written other ones. I'm working on another one called Fresh Juice, but it won't be out until next year, I believe.
Okay. What was the process like learning just about book publishing and going from an idea to having your books, like a physical book in hand?
It was a long process. When I first started in the children's book world in 2013, at that point, I had been sending out my work to publishers for a very long time as an illustrator first. And I learned quickly that a lot of publishers will look more for the author and the written manuscript first before they look for the illustrations. Oh. So I delved into studying writing. And then, in the children's book world, I think in publishing in general, you receive a lot of rejection because there's so many people trying to get into it. Mm-hmm. So what I had to do basically was self-publish that book For Khan's First Flat Top. And through that process, I learned a lot about what a publisher does. The illustrator and the author are just one small aspect of making a book what it is. You have the publisher, the people who print the book, the marketing and sales team who really get it out into people's view or their area where they're comfortable seeing. And you have, the graphic designer. In the case of my book, someone who's a translator who can translate it into another language. And there's really many, many different hats to wear to make a book successful so that it reaches its intended audience. And when I started working on it, I really learned about all the different hats, wearing many of them myself, but also learning how to reach out to people to help me make it what it is.
The book you're working on now, are you also self-publishing that, or did you decide to go through a traditional book publisher?
For that one, it's going through a traditional. So it's a publisher in New York called Lee and Low Books, and I got an agent, and she helped me pitch it to various companies, and they were the one that were interested in the story.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
If you hadn't gotten a book deal with a traditional publisher, would you have been willing to go through the process of self-publishing again?
Yeah, most definitely. I think I look at it a lot like in the music industry, how people get a record deal, and then there's people who they come out with their own projects independently. So
Mm-hmm.
much so now because the technology has really leveled the playing field in terms of being able to reach your audience and get your stuff out. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
would do it again, and I plan to do it again. I would like to kind of do both as my career moves along in the future, just because I really like the self-publishing. I like the community, and I'm curious to work with the industry to learn what I can there and build community in that realm as well.
Okay, nice. I like that. One of the things I really like about you and what you're doing is that you're an artist in different forms, not just a writer, but then also making artwork. And then you're involved in music as well. Can we talk about what you're doing with regard to music?
Well, I'm not a musician per se. I
Mm-hmm.
don't actually make any music, but I am a lover of music. I collect records, vinyl.
Oh,
I kind of grew up in a musical family. Several of my family members are musicians, so I've always loved music and listening to it. And from a very early age, hip hop music was just, it just captivated me as a kid.
mm,
And through hip hop, it's just kind of taken me down the rabbit hole of learning through samples and whatnot, all of the different genres that encompass it. And so I would say the main musics that I really enjoy are hip hop, of course, soul
mm,
music, jazz, now house music I'm getting to a lot. But I think just by listening to it, when I've done public art and murals, I always listen to music while I'm working.
yeah,
And I just like making artwork that is just kind of appreciative of music because it's given so much inspiration to me as an artist.
yeah. I was going to ask too, yeah, how the music that you enjoy inspires the art that you create. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're also involved with the Trust Your Struggle Collective.
Yeah.
What does that organization do, and what's your involvement with them?
Yeah, so I was one of several people who co-founded it in 2003. And basically, it is a group of educators and artists who, have interests in various things, and it's about combining those interests, specifically social justice, themes like ethnic studies, which I mentioned before,
Mm-hmm.
um, patriarchy now. We talk a lot about different subjects in art, and the aim is to try and make widely accessible exhibitions, public art, mural tours, sometimes workshops that talk about some of these issues. And a reason for that is that I feel like art for art's sake is really awesome. I love doing it. Sometimes it can just kind of ignore the things that are actually happening in society. And I think when it comes to people who are academics or really study a particular subject, sometimes it can be a little bit too jargony or a little bit just too heavy or hitting someone over the head with a subject. And so I think art has the power to really cut through facts and statistics and headlines and really get to the feeling of like how someone feels about an issue like police violence or police brutality. So I think that is like the foundation of it. And we've been able to do murals for so many different organizations, groups, collectives to really amplify the work that other people are doing too in terms of
Yeah,
social justice and organizing.
yeah. Do you do the outdoor, like the wall murals, or are they primarily indoor and for display privately?
Oh no, we definitely do. We do big murals outside, outdoors. Um, I'll give you an example. In 2008, the majority of the collective was based in Brooklyn, New York, and
Mm.
we started in Brooklyn, made our way to Massachusetts, New Orleans, Austin, Texas,
Wow.
Flagstaff, Arizona, and then Los Angeles, San Francisco, and just doing murals for different organizations, big murals outside, outdoors, all along the way there. One, for example, was a mural we did for the Victory Grill, which was a historic music venue in Austin, Texas, that was part of the Chitlin circuit, where tons of musicians would come through there and play. And then most recently, in Oakland, California, we did a mural for Reem's Bakery, which is a Palestinian-owned bakery in the Fruitvale district.
Nice.
So there's tons of murals that we've done indoors and outdoors.
Wow, that's amazing. For anyone who wants to see, and I don't see any murals on here, but to check out more of Robert's artwork, you can go to robdon'tstop.com, and I will for sure link to it in the show notes for this episode. You'll see a lot more of his artwork and also how you can work with him to. Now, what can people do with you? Can they commission you to do murals, or just like regular artwork for individuals?
Well, for the murals, I would say you can look up Trust Your Struggle. It's
Okay.
Trust Your Struggle Collective. So on Instagram, all the different things. But we also have a website, so trustyourstruggle.org. So for me, I work a lot in illustration. When I do murals, it's usually with my collective, with my crew, just because they're large and they're take a lot of work. So it's usually a team effort. But for me, I visit a lot of schools. So I will physically visit a school, and then through this age of COVID, virtually visit schools and read books and give talks to kids. I do a lot of illustration for nonprofit organizations or small businesses. And those are just some of the ways that I work with people. But yeah, that's the basics of it.
Nice. Okay, thank you. So I will link to both your website, robdon'tstop.com, and trustyourstrugglecollective.org.
Well, it's trustyourstruggle.org, I believe. I'll make sure to send you the right
cool. Great.
Yeah.
And then on Etsy, what do you primarily make and sell?
So primarily, I would say recently what I've been doing is stickers around identity. So I do a sticker about African American identity. It's Black is beautiful. I've done stickers about mixed race identity. So Blasian is a term that people often use for people who are mixed with both Black and Asian identity. Blaxican is another one. I've done a whole bunch of stickers just because it was a really fun project for me. And I think that people who come from mixed backgrounds or who are identifying as a Black or Indigenous or a person of color have really, it's really resonated with them. One of the ones that did really well recently was a sticker I did for self-care, which was basically, just little reminders to self about drinking water or contacting your friends. And that one did very well. In addition to selling children's books, I also sell art prints, as you mentioned, about music art. And one of the projects that really got me started was doing portraits of children. So a lot of parents or grandparents will commission a portrait of their child, or if they have multiple children, sometimes it's caregivers or like a wife giving it to their partner or something like that. But those are some of the things.
Where do the ideas for the products and by products I don't mean necessarily like, I know you have bookmarks and art prints, but I guess where does the inspiration come? A lot of it seems very personal, like based on your life experiences. Any other influences on your work?
Yeah, I would say, well, I think it's a long time coming for Black people of color to really just kind of embrace their identity. I think that so much of the society in the U.S. specifically is very much about assimilating and being one thing, but there's just so much nuance to the different types of cultures that live in this country. And for me in the Bay Area, that was always something to be proud of. And so I just wanted to make some stickers that people could put on their water bottle or their laptop or their sketchbook or whatever to kind of share that pride. But I think the other things like bookmarks or book plates, the posters that I do around literacy are because it goes back to that issue of not seeing a reflection of yourself in
Mm-hmm.
books. And so if you walk into a classroom or an office or a library and see, one of these prints that looks like you or someone in your family, I think it helps to make you feel a little bit more like a reader, like someone who,
Yeah.
books are for them. You can
Mm-hmm.
enjoy reading a little bit more, and that's my aim at least. Some of them are because I really liked making them myself, like it really inspired me because of my personal journey, and some of them are because a teacher or a parent gave me an idea, and I decided to try to test it out.
I like that. Yes, and it's what you said is so true about looking for yourself. I don't know if everyone realizes that we consciously do that. Like, you look for yourself in things you want to be involved in, or things that you I don't know how to express it. Places that you go to see if you really belong there. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? Yeah.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And I think when it comes to popular media, whether it be in film with like Oscar So White or in the children's book world, there was a movement several years ago called We Need Diverse Books. You have people from different groups that have been made to feel invisible through these forms of media. And so when they're calling to see themselves, is for one, calling on the institutions to do their part in making all these different types of people, whether not just race, but gender and sexual orientation as well, visible. But it also is an active part on these people from the backgrounds to kind of make art or make media that reflects their genuine personal story. And I think I try to do that with some of the artwork I make.
Yeah. I like that. Thank you for doing what you do, because I think it does encourage other makers of color, as well as those who aren't, to be more aware
Yeah,
of the world, essentially, and how it's viewed, both from their point of view and other people's point of view. And I think I said, I was, when you said there's the black Etsy shops owned by
yeah,
people of color, my heart jumped because I was like, what? Not because I didn't think no one else was on Etsy, but it's just nice to know
yeah.
that, oh, we're here.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And I think it's really cool because there's the forums as well, so you can kind of share tips, like help each other out. Like
Yeah.
people will ask basic things about people who are just starting out and then people who have been on there for a while. Like you really do get to share some things, and of course we all interact with anyone and everyone, but it is nice to have that.
Yes, and actually, I'm glad you said that, because I don't want anyone to ever think it's about exclusion
Yeah,
of others. It's not about excluding people and creating a clique.
right. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is definitely about uh kind of making our presence known and like banding together and like helping one another. And
Right.
if it wasn't for groups like that, it would just be a little bit harder, I think.
Yes, and I think for anyone, I just feel kind of you know a responsibility to say this, for anyone who might think that it's that type of group or movement cuts people out. I would say, to me, it's something like having, you know, artists of the Bay Area,
Hmm.
or uh, makers of Nashville,
Sure.
because there's a commonality. There's something there that's common to all of you, and there's a way you can support each other, um, because you're some type of affinity group, be it geographical or your craft or what have you. And so I yeah, I just want to say that.
Yeah, and I think that with this past summer, the with the murder of George Floyd and so many other black folks at the hands of the police departments across the U.S., people were pissed off. They were angry, and they not only did they want to see justice for black people and all people who've been, misharmed or killed by the police, but I think that people wanted to reach out to Black businesses to support them, and they were actively looking for it. And so I think a lot of um, sellers and artisans saw a rise in their sales.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about making money. It's really hard to make it as a maker or an artisan. So it was really encouraging to have people actively look out Black owned Etsy shops.
Yes, yeah, I do agree, and I don't know if I've said this before, and every time it comes to my mind, I will always say thank you for this. But around that time, um, I received financial support for the podcast, which I hadn't I hadn't brought up in a long time,
Yeah.
and I think, and and it was anonymous, so I have no idea who the people were who were supporting it. But whoever you are, thank you. I appreciate what you were doing. It everything went into the podcast, to pay for website hosting the audio files for the
Yeah.
podcast, all that. It all went into the podcast, and I do want to say thank you, because I know that what was happening really touched some people, and I know some people didn't feel comfortable enough to maybe say something, but wanted to do something. And for everyone who did do something in their own way, just know it's appreciated by the community at large.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, in this country, there's been a history. I mean, this country is founded on so many things, racism, and there's a lot of things at this core that I think people who may have been hesitant or in denial about are starting to wake up to. And I think that's really important. And, yeah, I thank you as well, because you provide such an incredible resource for makers of all types. Just so much knowledge and game, as I would say, being from Oakland, that you just cannot pick up anywhere. Like, you can go through your podcast and literally learn so much about products and marketing and how to present yourself, that it's an invaluable resource. So they should be paying you more, honestly. Put some more money on it.
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah.
So, why did you pick Etsy as your platform of choice to sell? Because you have other options. Why
Right.
Etsy?
Right. Yeah. So when I was actually living in Brooklyn and going back to school at the new school in Manhattan, and someone from Etsy came to the classroom that I was in and spoke to us about it. This is back when it first started. This was 2007.
Oh,
So
wow.
I started my page right after that person came in, just because I was like, wow, this is an interesting idea. This is dope. I really wasn't that knowledgeable about online sales at the time, and to be honest, really did not make that great use of it for quite a while, just because I didn't understand it. I was, like I said, working on a lot more public artwork, murals. But
Mm-hmm.
in the past 5 years, I've gone back to it and really tried to do my best to make the shop better and learn the ins and outs of it, because it is a really valuable tool to be able to have someone code and create all of the back end stuff for you to be able to upload your products is one thing, but also to have a community of people where people are sharing each other's work, and you can find a lot of other shops through what just one person you like follows. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's an invaluable resource for people like me who are really starting to understand how to sell products online and like market themselves in that way. And I would say the usability of it in terms of uploading things, getting the shipping, and moving it around and kind of editing how your shop looks is very easy to use. So I appreciate Etsy a lot.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's everything you said. Just, you're right. Great reasons to start on Etsy and open a shop on Etsy. I do have a question, though. This is kind of off topic because you've
Yeah.
mentioned it twice. So you lived on the East Coast before
Yeah.
and went to school there, and now you're on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Okay, so final decision. Which reigns supreme, East Coast or West Coast?
Oh, I mean, West Coast for sure. I mean, I was born and raised in Oakland, California, and I grew up in all over the Bay Area. So the Bay is home, no matter what, no matter where I go. But I would say I'm a, citizen of the country, a citizen of the world. Like, I love New York and Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Um, I grew up around a large mixture of different types of people, and Brooklyn was like that too. But it was like a whole other planet living in New York. You
Yeah.
know, for example, here in the Bay Area, someone wouldn't come up to me speaking Spanish because they wouldn't assume that I speak it. Most of uh, the Latinos or Latinx community in the Bay would be Mexican, or and that's not to say there aren't Black folks from Mexico. There are, but it would be Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, Mexico. Whereas in New York, it was Puerto Rico or Cuba or Venezuela, and so there was a lot of people just walking up to me speaking Creole or Spanish, whereas I just wasn't used to that. So I really enjoyed my time there, and when this COVID thing is over, I would like to travel there and other places in the world as well, just because, there's so much to see.
Yeah. At the back of my head, I always tell myself if I have to move and live somewhere else, Brooklyn is where I would pick. I don't know why. There's something about Brooklyn that I feel is calling my name.
Yeah. Yeah. Brooklyn is a planet, as MC Light once said. Brooklyn is a planet.
So, Robert, what does your day-to-day look like? How do you manage your time and between creating, making your artwork, and then also running a business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, when my child is in childcare and the childcare is running smoothly, I'll take my kid to childcare. My teenager is doing school from home, as so many of parents' children are, with online learning through COVID. But I will, begin to check emails. I will work on a lot of client work. As I said, I work for organizations, so I'll, be doing artwork for an organization. Like, for example, I'm currently working on something for the Oakland Public Library. And then once I'm done doing that, I will try to carve out a little bit of time for myself to work on personal projects. And the reason for that is that ever since I started as a visual artist who was sharing work online and publicly, the personal projects have always been really important in terms of kind of practicing for sure, but also kind of crafting my style and what I want to say. And I think when I've done that, I've been able to attract the type of clients that I want to work with or work for. And then usually I would say I'll check my sales to see, if I've made any sales, and I try to keep a good record, like in a spreadsheet of, what I've spent and what I've made. And then at the end of the week, that's usually when I pack up orders and ship them out. So that's usually how it goes.
Okay. So do you save all your shipping for 1 or 2 days out of the week? You're not constantly shipping out every day?
Yeah, I save it for one or 2 days a week now. I used to, so when I first came out with that book for Cons for Flat Top, I was just so excited to get it into people's hands. Like it really made me happy that people would actually want the book. So I was going to the post office, multiple times a week, and I got to know everyone on a first name basis. They would ask me about my kids, like they're really nice. So I was always going there, but when the quarantine happened, I was like, maybe I need to cut it down a little bit and be a little bit more focused. And now I try to ride my bike to the post office as opposed to drive, so that I can get a little bit of exercise in. So yeah, I try to be more focused with it.
Okay. Now, one of the things you mentioned was working on your personal projects and your style to attract the kind of clients that you want. Can we talk more about that? What does that look like specifically?
Yeah, so I think that when it comes to a maker or an artist, I think that it's a balance of making what you want and making something that serves the people or serves your community. I don't think of the people as just customers or clients, but as like a community, and like the artwork or the thing that I'm making being an ends to, maybe I'm saying this wrong, but like a means to an end, like something that actually serves a purpose. So I'll do a lot of personal projects and series, one because of that, and also because I just get bored easily and I need to do multiple things. But to give you an example, I started working on a series of characters, I want to say a little over 10 years ago, where I would draw a character, whether related to music or martial arts or animation or storytelling, just for fun, just to do what I wanted to do. And then as I got better at it, I would start to do them specifically about, Women's History Month or the Art Challenge Inktober. And that really helped my skills, and it really helped people see, oh, this is what this artist can do. And then when it came to kids' books, I started to make literacy related things like as I mentioned, the bookmarks, book plates, posters. One, because people were asking for them, and two, because I just really enjoyed them and it was important to me. And I think through making a bunch of products about all the interests that I'm in, I've been able to reach a wide group of people and a wide group of support. So when one's not doing well, the other one kind of helps lift that up. So I think that's why it's important.
Okay. Thank you. And I think you've just made a case for diversifying your product line as opposed
Yes.
to sticking with just one thing.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. How do you know how to, or how much inventory to carry? How do you figure out, how much to keep, which ones to make multiples of, which ones might be good sellers, etc.?
I think through, as I said, the past 5 years has been where I've really buckled down and kind of invested time in my shop. I would say it's a natural thing that happens over time where, as I said, I try to make something that's for me and for my community. I'll make things and then some will do really well and some won't. And I think what I try to do is, for one, pay attention to that and do a little bit more that's working. So if people are really enjoying one particular thing, like, add on to that. I don't try to go, take every single bit of my energy and put it into that just one thing. I try to do a variety of things because, I just feel like I have something to say, and I think that people are interested in a bunch of different things. But through that process of, like, basically, failing a lot, screwing up sometimes, making some mistakes, you learn what people are feeling and what people are really just not that interested in. And so through that, I will, keep more product for this particular thing because I'm like, oh, people really like that. Let me make sure I have that on hand. And I, in addition to the Etsy shops, I've also vended at a lot of outdoor events, like in the Bay Area, the Malcolm X Jazz Festival, the Life is Living Festival, Juneteenth. San Francisco had an Etsy group called SF Etsy, which is really big, and they've helped me a lot.
Yeah, I used to be part of that too. That's
Oh,
a
awesome.
great group. Yes.
Yes, it is. It is a really great group. And then most recently, like the Black Joy Parade here in the Bay. So if I was in New York, it would be like, Afro Punk or Dance Africa or one of these events. But through that, like really testing it and seeing what people are interested in, that's how I figure out what to keep and what to let go.
How do you phase out the products that aren't really moving or aren't very popular?
I think what I'll do is try to keep them as giveaways. So I try to have some giveaways for when I have my, booth out in public when we were doing that, and when I send things. And so if things are not doing that well, I'll keep them as giveaways. Sometimes the products won't do well, and then there'll be a spike in it, later on down the line. But in general, I'll just phase them out and take them out of the shop.
Okay. Now, on your site, robdon'tstop.com, do you do any selling from that at all, or is it more of a portfolio site for you?
It's mostly a portfolio, and I have my resume there. I have links to all my social media and the blog and all that stuff.
Okay.
I have experimented with it, so I've used WooCommerce before to sell things. I found that Etsy was just easier user-wise to upload things and get all the back end going, and so that's why I've kind of stuck with it and come back to it. I think that it can be easy if you go through Shopify or Squarespace, but I didn't want to use those websites, so I think that's why I've stuck with Etsy mostly.
Okay, so how do you promote your Etsy shop? Do you do much promotion? Do you rely on social media or what do they call it now? Promoted listings on Etsy?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that's been super helpful recently is email newsletter. So with social
Oh.
media being like, such an algorithm where in some avenues like Facebook you have to pay to play, but in
Mhm.
Instagram it's more about your interaction with people.
Yeah.
I found that the email newsletter has been really helpful. And I would send something that's just like, here's what I'm up to, this is what I'm doing. And additionally, I would send one email that's just a product and saying, if you like it, you like it. If not, keep it moving.
Right.
And so email has been super helpful. And yes, I do promote things through social media regularly, usually several times a month. And then when there were in-person events, that was a huge help as well, because I would have people, come and check it out and see it. And they may not purchase there, but later on they might, buy in bulk for a school or a bookstore or something like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And then the in-person events were really helpful in capturing emails, because then I could, send them a direct message saying, here's what I'm doing, this is what I'm making. Um, but in terms of the paid ads through Etsy, yeah, I've tried that as well. Those were helpful. I think Etsy does a really good job of marketing themselves, so there is a huge amount of traffic that comes to me through the platform.
Okay. Yeah. Um, I need to harp on this email marketing because
Yeah,
ever since this year started, I've said to myself, okay, forget social media. Email is where it's at.
yeah,
I'm educating myself about email, but the one thing I haven't done, of course, is actually sent an email, which, you can learn all you want. If you don't do it, it doesn't make any difference.
yeah.
So, what's your strategy? I'm so curious now because there's a part of me that's kind of even though people sign up to um, hear from me by email, there's a part of me that worries that they really don't want to.
Yeah.
What's your strategy with and I know you mentioned what you say with in your emails, but do you just speak from the heart on in the ones where you're not talking about a product that or
hmm
something you've just created? What do you say?
Um, well, I think one thing that helped me was subscribing to other makers or artists, email other
Mm,
people that make or that do art that I really like, and just peeping game and just seeing like what do they do, like how do they speak to their people. And I think I got a lot of tips from them, and I felt a little bit. I also felt really self conscious, and through just seeing how other people doing it, I was like, okay, I think I can do that.
yeah.
And so what I generally try to do is send one email when I first started, just one per month, because I know how annoying it can get if people are sending it all the time.
Yeah.
And I think if I was doing a good job, people were looking forward to it when they get it once a month.
Yeah.
And it allows me to really collect and say, okay, what are all the things that happened the past month?
Mm,
So that's one thing. I try to keep it super brief so I don't make it an essay when I send it.
mhm.
And I make sure that every single email I have has multiple images or a video. So that way, I don't know, it's just something cool to look at.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other thing I try to do is I will try to, in addition to talking about this is me, this is what I'm doing, here's a product I recently made, I will try to include some things that are inspiring me as well. I'll
Mm,
say, there's an article that I read that's really cool, or I really like this song, going back to music, or I really am inspired by this, maker or person. And I think that has been helpful, making it interesting for the reader and also for me to keep going, because it's definitely hard to keep doing
yeah.
it for a while. And then I was working with a PR and marketing specialist, a company called Papa Lowdown, and they really suggested to, send all of that, like just a regular email about all of those things, and to send a specific product email. And that really helped drive a lot of sales,
Oh,
because sometimes it can get lost in the shuffle.
yeah.
But definitely images, keeping it brief, speaking about what I'm interested in, and giving them a little something.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good. That helps actually.
Yeah.
What service do you use to send your emails and are you happy with them?
I use Mailchimp, and I'm happy with them. I have a less than 1,000 email subscribers, so I have not had to pay to do any extra services yet.
Yeah.
Um, I think, yeah, it's been good working with them. I think that in terms of people like getting annoyed or wanting to subscribe or unsubscribing, I think once you really find your tribe or your people that really understand who you are and what you make, they will stick around. And the people who are just there for, the quick minute, they'll leave, and it's
Yeah.
fine. I don't need to have 5,000 subscribers. I,
Yeah.
I only need 500 who really get it. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, good. I like that.
yeah.
Going back to just being a maker and an artist, do you ever find that you sometimes get in a creative rut, and how do you get yourself out?
Oh my God, all the time. Yeah. Creative rut is part of it, and also just too many ideas, and like, I want to do this and I
Yes.
want to do
Yeah,
that.
that's my problem.
Yeah, right. I think that to I think if I'm working on client work and I'm working on products and I'm working on my own personal work, it's important to, like, for one, make things that are interesting to me. And so even if no one else is paying attention and they're not really getting it, I still make them just because it feeds me creatively. So to give you an example, as I'm a visual artist, I will work a lot with characters or anatomy or body types of both adults and kids. But if I get bored with that, sometimes I'll work on a series about typography or lettering.
Mm.
If I get bored with that, sometimes I'll work on something that is just about writing. I think it's important to make several different types of projects that keep you engaged and focused, and to take a break too. Sometimes I'll just, unplug and literally turn it all off and like go ride a bike or like
Yeah.
go, in these times too when we're cooped up inside, like I think it's important to like take a break. Um, so that is what helps me get unstuck usually.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I um you're so right on point in that it's either there's no flow or there's an overflow of ideas.
Yeah,
So on the
yeah.
flip side, how do you deal with that when your mind is just going a mile a minute with different ideas of things to do? How do you keep track of what what you really inside want to do and what's just a fleeting, you know, uh, like a fleeting thought, or like, okay, it was nice to think about, but that's not going to happen.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think I'm still learning how to do that. There are some times where I just, jot it down. I keep a sketchbook to this day, and write things down or doodle something. But I think the good ideas tend to kind of replay or come back over and over, whereas some of the other ones will eventually fade away. But yeah, I'm
Mm.
still working on that.
Yeah. Oh man, I thought you were going to tell me how.
No, I wish I had it figured out.
What would you say are some things that you did or have done along the way selling on Etsy that you think have made a difference in just helping you gain traction and really find some success on the site?
Hmm. I think I think that, well, one thing that was really helpful this past year, again, the company I was working with, Papa Lowdown, helped me do this, was to think about care packages. So, in this time where people are not allowed to go to stores, trying to think of ways to creatively put together a bunch of products that I make and sell it as, one care package. And I
Mm.
think that was really, really helpful because people would want a book or and a print and a bookmark, like all together,
Yeah.
with a reduced price, so that way they could feel some value out of it. I think that was really helpful and helped me gain a lot of traction. Um, I think also having better marketing for the products and like, what do you call it, the way that I ship them and like wrap them up, or like trying to get better at that, and like leaving a thank you note and like having a
Mm.
discount code for people when they purchase something,
Mm.
and then just trying to make my products, and how they get to people, how they arrive, look a lot better.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the name again of the agency you worked with? You've mentioned them a couple of times now.
Yeah, so Papa Lowdown is a company based in Los Angeles, and they
Okay.
were based in the Bay Area, but they're in Los Angeles now. My friend Paloma Concordia, she runs it with several other people, and it just was, her advice was very helpful in terms of just marketing myself and like not being shy and just trying to
Yeah.
figure out how to make better use of what I already do.
Okay. Is her agency, do you think, open to hearing from maybe somebody who's listening to this conversation and might
Yeah,
want to connect and have a similar discussion like you did,
yeah,
maybe?
yeah. I think so. I think she's always taking new clients.
Okay, great. So I will look up her link and then put it in the notes for this episode. So if anyone wants to reach out to them, because it seems to me that just consulting with them has helped you focus on things and open your eyes to maybe blind spots you didn't have and things you could be doing that you weren't, which is always a good
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. And I'll mention one other person. There is a artist by the name of Nidhi Chanani. She's a visual artist, illustrator, a kids book maker as well, a graphic novelist. She gave me a lot of game in terms of not only in-person events, but other people to look at in terms of how to market oneself and to
Okay.
put the products together. She gave me a lot.
Okay, good. And so I will look her up too. And everybody is on the internet somehow. So I'll hunt her down
Right.
and put a link to where folks can connect with her too.
Yeah.
Um, are there any lessons that you've learned the hard way while selling on Etsy that you can maybe share and save someone else from having to go through it the rough way?
Oh yeah. So one is like over ordering a product that you haven't tested yet. So I think there have been times in the past where I wanted to sell something and was really excited about it. And I just got a whole bunch of it made, let's say like a print or something like that. And it just didn't do well. It didn't resonate with people.
Mm,
And I think, for one, building up a regular, consistent schedule where people are aware that you're making products and releasing them is important. But I think also just testing them to see, are people feeling this? And they'll tell you, they'll not just by sales, but like sharing it and like letting other people know. And
yeah.
so I think it's important to try and test it out first and see how it does, and then order accordingly.
Okay. Yep. I made that mistake too before. I'm still sitting on some of that mistake.
Yep, me too. Me too. It's in my closet, in my basement right now.
Right, right, yes. What is something about selling on Etsy that you really enjoy? And then on the flip side, are there any features that currently don't exist on the platform that you'd like to see one day?
Hmm. Well, I think for features, one thing that would be cool is if, on the banner, when you click on someone's page, if there was video, like you could put video in the banner, that would be really cool. I think, hmm, one of the ones that have been really helpful. Could you ask that question again?
So something you really enjoy about the Etsy platform and then a feature that doesn't currently exist that you would like to see one day. So yeah, you said the video would be nice in the banner.
I really like that. For one, you can upload multiple images, but they give you a little bit of coaching in terms of like how to make the images better.
Oh
I
yeah.
think that photography, it seems so simple, but it makes such a difference in terms of like how people understand what this product is, because they can't pick it up themselves. They're looking on the website. So like having good photography, I mean, that's something I'm constantly working on. I think that the coaching on those images where it says, show it in scale, show, multiple angles, like that is really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I think the editability where you're able to kind of like rearrange the items very easily, that is super helpful. I
Yeah.
found that it was kind of challenging on other web platforms to move things around, if I wanted to, let's say for Black History Month or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah. Thank you. That helps.
Yeah.
What would you say to a fresh, new, young artist who is trying to just grow both as an artist and a business owner? What advice would you give to that person listening right now?
I would say to um, follow what is your passion, like make artwork about what really resonates with you or speaks to you. Really go from there and see where that takes you. I would say that's one thing, and I think the other thing would be to pay attention to your community, whoever that may be. Maybe it's your block or your school or your your office or your neighborhood, the city, whatever. Pay attention to your community and see what do they need. Like if you do a certain type of thing that you make, or you are a certain type of artist, how can what you do serve that community? And I think through those two things, it will grow eventually.
Yeah, I like that, to connecting. Are there any tools or resources? I know we talked about MailChimp, which is what you use for your email. Any
Yeah.
other tools or resources that you find particularly helpful in the day to day running of your shop?
Yeah, so my wife introduced me to this app that's called Cashboard, and
Oh,
I use that to invoice people for illustration client work and for books. So let's say if a library wants to buy more than 5 books from me from my Etsy shop, I can say, please email me and I will send you an invoice for, let's say 10 books or 20 books. And that has been really valuable, not only because it's like a professional looking invoicing service, that they get, but also after you've sent it, it can send them a reminder without you having to do it.
oh,
So,
nice.
several weeks, pretty much after you've sent it to them, it will send them a reminder once the bill is due, and that you don't have to worry about doing that. And it also lets you know when they've looked at it, so they can't say, "Oh, I didn't get it," or "I didn't see it." You can look and be like,
Oops.
"Yeah, you saw it actually 2 weeks ago." Um, so that's one thing. I think Hootsuite was really helpful
Oh,
to
yeah.
use, so you can post to multiple platforms at once. I use Bitly as well for like shorter links on Twitter. Those are the ones that come to mind right now.
Okay, those are really helpful. Do you for Bitly, do you use the I know that you're able to track the links just to see how they're performing. Do you look at that at all, or you primarily just use it to shorten?
I haven't used that feature. No, I should make better use of it, but I haven't used that feature. I usually use the analytics on my site, or
Okay.
on Etsy, or on my blog to tell like where the traffic is coming from.
Okay. Okay, great. These are great. And the Cashboard, it's an app. Can it be used on a desktop, or is it
Yeah.
only
Yes.
okay?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, you can use it on a desktop.
Okay, good. All right. So I
Yeah.
will link to all of these also in the show notes, so anyone who wants to can check them out. Robert, do you have an Etsy shop shout out? This can be another seller who maybe has, helped you in some way, or whose work you particularly enjoy and you want to share.
Um, I will shout out Latoya, and she has a shop called Fresh Seed Glow, and
Sorry, was
Lingua.
that fresh seed, like SEED?
Yeah,
Glow. Okay.
and Alicia from Lingua Nigra. They're the two people who run the Black Etsy shop, and I
Okay.
think, yeah, through them, it's been really great to meet a lot of other makers, like Christina Springer and other folks, just because it's a lot of work to run a group. So I
Oh,
I will
yes.
shout them out.
Oh, for sure. Okay, great. So I will also link to their Etsy shops, and I'll put a link to the group as well. So for anyone who wants to learn more about what they're doing, can check them out too.
Oh, I can say one more.
Yeah.
Susie Garamani. She's an artist, illustrator, bookmaker based in San Diego. She's really inspiring as well, and she's on Etsy.
What's her shop?
It's called Boy Girl Party.
Boy Girl Party. Oh, I can't wait to check these out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will link to all of these as well.
Okay.
Robert, before I let you go, what would you say in general in your business, Etsy, um, the Trust Your Struggle Collective? What would you say in all of the creative work that you're putting out there is working really well for you? What are you most happy about right now?
I think um, I think building community with other people has always worked well and continues to work well for me. So in addition to those things that you mentioned, I help organize a social justice children's book fair in the Bay Area, And this past year we had to do it virtually. But I think finding other like-minded people who, they do something similar to you, or they have similar values, and just building with them, like creating new things, sharing tips and tricks, and really working together or organizing together to make something larger than yourself has been really helpful. Because, I of course I want to make a living doing my artwork, but I also want to help other people as well, and like serve a purpose, like do something that really benefits people beyond myself or my immediate family and friends. So I think building community, I think, is really important.
I love that. You just put a smile on my face.
Awesome. Yay.
What's the best way people can connect with you if they want to get in touch or have continue the conversation with you?
The best way to reach out is through my website, robdon'tstop.com, or you can email me at info@robdon'tstop. And on there, you can see my blog and my shop and all the social media and all that stuff.
Okay, wonderful. And I will have all that in the show notes for this episode as well.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. Again, Robert's shop is Art of Robert Trujillo. That's on Etsy. And robdon'tstop.com is his website. There will be links to everywhere you can find him on the internet. Robert, thank you so much for having this conversation with me, for sharing what you're doing. Thank you for what you're even doing, first and foremost. I think it's really important, just how you're helping to raise up a generation of kids who love to read and who see themselves represented in the books that they read, and are just developing a love and affinity for something that in the past they might not even have, had a second thought about, because, it's reading isn't glamorous, but you're making it more attractive. And I'm grateful to you for that, because I have little ones in my life too, and I want them to enjoy reading. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your dedication and work to make this podcast what it is. Like, you're really doing an incredible job, like just sharing so much knowledge and a wealth of resources through your work. So I appreciate you so much.
You are welcome. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. If you want to connect with me, you can go to convome.com, and there's all the information there to connect with me. I will be back with another episode next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.